Welcome to Beyond Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Petrellis, and we are super excited for today's guest. I got to tell you, I've been hanging around the Mass Pirates now for the last few months. I've seen this guy in the locker room. Every player in the team knows who he is. He daps everybody up all the time. What was crazy was I was on a radio show the other day with him, and I was just listening to his wealth of knowledge in the arena football game in general, and it was incredible. And to find out that he's only graduated high school not too long ago, he's only a high school graduate. I thought I was talking to somebody who was like a 20-year vet of watching arena ball and everything else. This guy was incredible. And I said to him on the radio, we got to get you on the podcast. And here we are 2 days later. Both of us immediately contacted each other. I had to get this guy on. I am so impressed with his knowledge. I'm so impressed with him as a person. And we're super excited to have him on here today. So without further ado, my man, I hope I say this right, even though we practiced this 5 times, Krish Vyas. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. Really humbled to be on your podcast. You have a great platform, and I can't wait for tonight.
Yeah, so I'm about to blow people's minds in a few minutes, but let's first talk you a little bit because I want my audience, especially those that aren't watching, that are listening, tell who you are a little bit, give an explanation. I kind of said you just graduated high school, but just give everybody a little overview of who you are because you are about to blow their minds in a few minutes.
Sure. So, my name is Krish Vyas. I grew up in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. I've lived there my whole life. Played sports growing up, baseball, basketball, football. Heavily involved with the Special Olympics community. I think it's great. I'm involved with a lot of things in my high school, business club, speech and debate growing up. So I've always had a niche for sports in general and just media and business. I've always been into that kind of stuff. Video games are a big passion of mine. I like to kind of dive into everything. I like to get a little bit of everything and put it all in one pot and kind of, advance it from there. So I'm all about growing. I love the media space. I'm a huge fan of podcasting. I have my own podcast over at Shady Sports YouTube channel. I've done over 400 episodes with a bunch of different teams and players. And I've just, over the past 3 years, became very fascinated and obsessed with football, especially arena football. And so ever since then, I've been studying it, doing deep dives on it, and really diving into stats and trying to find trends and trying to make the next big discovery, per se, in the industry. So.
Dude, I love your attitude. And again, you guys listen to it like a young kid here at 18. 18, are you 18?
18, yeah.
18-year-old kid right here. And now when you mentioned that you first got into football, like we're gonna jump into arena in a second because you have such a knowledge of the game. But was it like pro football, college football, or even a local high school football that really kind of got you onto it? What kind of really started with football and then maybe directed you into the arena game?
Honestly, it was going to the first Pirates game. Before then, I watched Patriots here and there. 2017 is when I really first got into the Patriots fully. But, really arena football, getting to know the guys on a personal level, understanding what colleges they came from, what backgrounds. That's what really got me fully into it.
So you went to a Pirates game, you were hooked, you fell in love. I mean, I've only been following them now for this year just because they locally moved to Lowell and more media about them, maybe more in a local area. For me, I'm about a 20-25 minute drive in Wilmington to get there. But for you, you obviously a Shrewsbury guy. I mean, I see you in the locker room literally every game. So when did you start maybe really becoming affiliated kind of with the team, with the program, with the organization, that you are kind of like the behind the scenes guy there?
Yeah, so it's a funny story. When in 2018, I had a doctor's appointment at UMass, and the Pirates came by and visited. And I remember about to leave in my car, and my mom was like, "Oh, come out, there's a football team." And I didn't really know what I was getting into. I met the guys in the hospital lobby, and they invited me to a game. And ever since then, I've just been coming to every single game. Last year, I was a coaching intern on staff, so I
Damn.
attended meetings, practices. I learned so much about the game on the offensive side of the football, like knowledge that I keep with me today, and I study even more because eventually I want to go into coaching. That was such a valuable experience for me, and I always cherish that year that I had with the staff and the players and stuff. And so ever since then, now that Lowell's a little farther away from my house, so I haven't been able to attend as many meetings or practices, but I still want to stay around the team. I've been to every home game so far. It's a great experience all around.
Yeah, it's fun seeing you there. I mean, like I said, the players literally dap you up, dude. You are like the guy in the locker room for sure. I mean, talk about that internship a little bit. What was like maybe something that was just like really cool that you learned about the game, or maybe even learned about yourself a little bit of someone who kind of is taking a chance, diving in, young kid. You were 17 at that point, a junior in high school, doing all that stuff. So just talk about that a little bit.
It's the commitment. You have to be committed to excellence. And during meetings, you can't, if you look away for 1 second, you'll miss an entire play call. I found myself sitting there writing play calls as fast as I could because I didn't want to miss a word or miss a phrase. And learning the different coverages and how to dissect them and how different teams run similar looks, but different coaches have different philosophies. It's so intriguing. I learned so much about the game of football and the intricacies and the details, and it it was so fun. Play calling and schemes
Did you
and
ever get to call a
everything.
play? Did you call a play at all?
I wish I really have been wanting to call eventually though, but for me it's just I was fascinated by it. Learning how receivers run routes. You would think the indoor game is so simple. There's only a certain amount of route concepts you can do, but the indoor game is the outdoor game on steroids. And it's so much defensively, you can do so much. So much.
Yeah, I mean, I've been studying a little bit just because I've been there now for like a few calls that it's been like a legal defense. So I've been kind of learning that and understanding a little bit what makes the defense illegal. Like those are a couple things I think adjustments for me from like the pro and college game or even the high school game that I didn't recognize myself. If you were a play caller, right, in this offense, is there a play that stood out to you last year or a play that you knows in their playbook this year that you're like, if I had a chance to call a play, it'd be this play because of blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, one play that stood out to me, it's a Madden play. Everyone will know. It's called a play action crosser. So it's where you send two receivers this way, they run a crossing route. That play in arena football is goaded. There's no defense that can stop that because your map is restricted so much before the line of scrimmage. They have to stand 5 yards. They're not able to react to the motion man quick enough when you run a crossing play. So
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing to think about that, but it's so true, especially if linebackers just bite up a little bit. Or I notice in the arena game sometimes that delay blitz, that play action. Now that running backs maybe the fourth blocker in the backfield and picks up that blitz, and those crossing routes are there. Like, yeah, absolutely. What was so, and I want to say this to the audience, what was so intriguing is that I was on a radio interview with you the other night, and you, Joe Bogard, all in Sports Huddle, and he kind of asked you to talk a little bit about the Pirates, and you just like, you knew the kicker, what college they went to, how many championships. I mean, had no clue. I was listening to a recent high school graduate. I thought I was listening to somebody, like I said, was analyzed this game for a long time and knows these players. It was incredible to find out that you were your age and how much you knew. Um, the Pirates kind of better than anybody. I mean, for you, I look at this year's team watching them, and you were around obviously the 2021 is kind of when they won the championship. So I guess that's the team we can always jump back to and compare when we talk about this team a little bit. But when I look at this team, at least the beginning of the season when they were like healthy and full, I mean, that offense was, I mean, it still is. I mean, I'm not saying it isn't, but that offense was explosive. I mean, I felt like, man, this team runs the ball well. They can throw the ball. They got a guy who can go deep. They have a good possessive receiver going across. They got physical, tough receivers. And then I looked at them defensively and I just saw speed, and I think obviously defense always takes a little bit longer to kind of catch up and get better and things like that. I mean, when you look at this team and you compare it to the 2021 team, there were a lot of similarities. I mean, what are some differences you might notice? I mean, this is a guy who you know this game pretty well.
see, that's an interesting question. Because
Mhm.
defensively, if you look at a D line, I think I think our D line this year is stronger than 2021. I really mean that. I think we have faster D linemen. I think Guy Thomas on the right side of D line is so explosive. I can't name another explosive D line. Our linebacker crew with Calvin Bundage. It's been hard to find that other linebacker to kind of shadow Calvin on the other side, finding that jack. But DBs, I think we're close where we were for sure. I think Matt Elam obviously brings so much to the table. Devin Hafford. We just had a little inconsistency with the amount of injuries we faced at that position. Running back, I mean, Jimmy's as good as it gets. So I would
I
say
mean, he's
Jimmy.
got to be honestly, the best all around running back in the league. I mean, the way he
Yeah.
catches the ball just alone. makes him stand out to any other running back. But God, he runs the ball so well. He's so quick. His yards after catch, his first guy miss, like it's wild.
Yeah, I think Jimmy, of course, he's all around best back, and he has receiving capabilities too. He's an incredible receiving running back. I think that position is better than 2021. Receiver wise, I mean, we had a pretty good receiving core in 2021, but Teo Redding, I mean, he just adds a whole nother dimension to the offense. It's hard because you look at this team and you're like, on paper and on the field, this team should be as good or even better than 2021 team. It's just right now we're losing games by mistakes.
Yeah, it
And
seems like, at least, again, a positive outlook. And we kind of talked about this the other night a little bit, but they are losing close games. I know maybe last week they scored with little time left, so it maybe made it look a little bit closer. But regardless, at least the games that I've attended, I mean, there hasn't been a game that I was like, man, that they weren't in, to the very end, or even if they were winning, like, yeah, the team kind of fighting back a little bit and a game being close. But it seemed like early on, one strength of this team that I noticed is that they won some close games, like especially in Green Bay, coming back and being composed and then coming home and winning a few. And what would you say about this team? Um, Let me rewind that. Is it difficult? Like, and I've noticed this, the amount of like free agents that are getting signed, the amount of guys that are getting, is that common? Is that like really common? Like kind of what we're seeing with this?
for the Pirates, it is because we're
Yeah.
constantly looking to make improvement. Jawad is the best team in all of football, in my
He
opinion.
finds guys anywhere. It's wild.
He for those who don't know, Jimmy Robinson is from Bethune Cookman. Jawad went to Bethune Cookman. So you have that connection there. Jawad has so many connections to the pro game and scouts and agents. Like he's able to find so much talent. And so if he said it himself, like if we can find a better player than what we have, we're gonna sign him. We're gonna bring him in. And that attitude is amazing, in my opinion. Always looking to get better, always looking to improve. I will tell fans now, I expect to see even more turnover with CFL cut downs just a couple of days ago. I expect to see more guys, as we have injuries and other things come up, more guys come and sign with the Pirates for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny you said that because I've been on a few radio shows or even this podcast, and people talk to me about the Mass Pirates, and I talk about Jawad. I'm like, this GM, I'm like, I was like, I don't know how common this is in the indoor game. I said, but they're active, they're getting guys constantly. When I see him in person, like he's passionate, he loves it, he's in the locker room, he's on the sideline, like he eats it up. And I think that when you have a GM, like you look in sports, I mean, look who the Celtics are about to play. I mean, arguably one of the most animated GMs there are, owners there are out there, and it definitely brings an element. It definitely brings like you said, if you're always looking to get better, then everybody who's there is they got to show why they're there and compete for that. I mean, it gives you an edge of yeah, competition, and the best player plays, and that's why I think it separates them. I mean, that's kind of what I've seen so far. Again, I've only followed for a season. You seem to kind of affirm that a little bit, but yeah, he seems like he really just knows how to build a squad. Um, for you now, what was like when you were when you were coaching? Because I didn't know this. This is like kind of intrigues me now to go backwards on this a little bit. What side of the ball were you more on? I mean, everybody looks at Arena as a sexy offensive game, which it is, don't get me wrong. But defensively, I argue this game's explosive. I mean, guys are going over the boards constantly, big hits against the boards, pursuit to the football's quicker, so guys are getting there quicker and gang tackling, and really that second, third guy coming in and whacking. I mean, were you more on the offensive side of the ball, or were you kind of balanced, would you say?
Yeah, so when I did my internship, when I picked what side of the bar I wanted to do, I really wanted to do offense. I wanted to learn from the guys we had in that room. That year we had 8 guys. They were all AD1 guys. All of them had NFL experience. So for me, I wanted to learn from our quarterback, Anthony Russo. He was in Michigan State's offense. He
Wow.
ran Temple spread offense. So for me to learn from him, he taught me so much about the game of football. And he was such a great teacher and a mentor to me. I'm always thankful for AR and what he taught me and everything. So it was important for me to be on that side of the ball for sure.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, it's so funny. I remember when I first started coaching with my brother, and we both got offered to like coach the freshman team of where we were, and we rose, and I became the defense coordinator, eventually became the head coach there. But at that time, we both got hired and we walked out and we both turned to each other like, I'm going to coach offense. And then we both, like, no, I'm coaching off. Like, we kind of went back and forth. And by default, older brother won and I coach defense. And I obviously love the defensive side of the ball. It's all I coach, it's all I love. So it's interesting to hear because so many people lean towards offense and we had the opportunities, obviously, to work with some people who've been in some systems and had some success. So that's really cool. One thing that I'm going to blow people's mind about here about Krish that a lot of people don't know is that he also in the indoor game is an agent or is an agent for some of the players and he's become friends with them. When did this start? And I mean, tell us about it because this is incredible that these players are trusting you and their contracts and what they take a look at and everything else. I mean, that's an impressive part of who you are. So walk us through this a lot.
Yeah, so it came across, surprise to me too. 2 months ago, I'm always looking for the next big thing, like I mentioned earlier. So I was kind of on Facebook and I saw a scouting agency called Wolf 10 Scouting, based out of Dallas, Texas, and they were looking for agents. And so I reached out to them. I sent them my resume, and we got to talking. They said, "Okay, you can sign on." And I know coaches, I work with teams. I work with multiple teams other than the Pirates too and other leagues.
Okay.
And so I was like, I have a base, I have connections. Like, why not give it a go? So I got assigned with 4 clients right off the bat. They were all developmental players who play on this team called the Dallas Falcons. And they're located in Dallas, Texas. They play, for those who don't know, it's like 2 levels below the Pirates, let's say, right?
All right, so
So
talk about this for a second. Just freeze you there. So you became an agent. You had these. You reached out. You kind of put yourself out there. I mean, you're a young kid, and they're signing with you. So what was your selling point a little bit? How did you convince these guys that you were young, but you knew what the heck you're doing?
I walk them through my connections and I'm like, look, I've done this, I've done that, I've been around this, I've done this many podcasts, but also my price is only $100 for 1 year. And I don't take any percentage of your contract. Even though in the contract you sign with me, it says I take 10%. But as a man, I can't take 10% of a guy making 250 a week. I can't do
Yeah,
that. Right.
yeah.
So I do you a solid by not doing that. And you just pay me $100 for 1 year representation. You're not going to get that anywhere else.
No, I mean nowhere. And so, how well do you know these contracts? Like when you're negotiating a contract. I mean, have you been in contract negotiations? Obviously, I'm
Yeah.
assuming. Like, so talk, walk me through like an indoor contract. What is it that maybe typically people get, or just maybe something you add as an incentive, or things that you work on for the players, so obviously earn them as top dollars you can.
Yeah. So when I sit down and I talk to the coach, I usually get, we're paying him 250. Like there's not a dollar higher, not a dollar less. And it's like, okay, coach, can you do 275? Can you do 300? Can you do win bonuses? They're like, okay, if he's a lineman, I'll do 300. I'll give him the $300, nothing more, nothing less. And so you don't really have a lot of leverage. But when in the Arena Football League, before the whole thing like collapsed and had issues, there was
Yeah.
a point in the contract where it said if a team cuts a player for any reason, the team doesn't owe the player money. And that was in the very bottom of the contract. And so
Yeah.
I remember going through that and reading that and telling my clients, like, we need to really watch out. We really need to talk to these teams and make sure, like, you're going to get the money that you're owed.
That's wild. So that's just you just reading the contract through and through. So you sign with these 4 guys, originally development league in Dallas. Then from there, how did you grow? Did word get out around you? I mean, you hang around the Pirates. Are there Pirates who kind of talk to you a little bit as far as that stuff goes, or?
So my clients have asked me that. They're like, "Oh, can I get on the Mass Pirates?" And I tell my clients, you're not Mass Pirates material. None of my clients are Mass Pirates material. Mass Pirates material is like NFL material. So
Yeah.
none of them are at that level. But I reach out to coaches. I say, "Hey, coach, what do you need?" And I on Facebook Messenger, on text message, on a phone call, and they'll say, "Okay, we need a lineman." I said, "Okay, I got this lineman. He's ready to go." There was a team in the Pirates' old league, the National Arena League, called the Oklahoma Flying Aces. And this team and me and the coach actually became friends. We met last year in person when he came up to play the Pirates. And so we met, we exchanged phone numbers, and we've been talking ever since. So he became the head coach mid-season, and he was desperate for players. And so
Yeah.
I used him, and I would call him and say, "Hey, coach, I got a quarterback. He can be up." And he's like, "Okay, he needs to be here in 6 hours." I would leave my math class in high school, get on the phone with the quarterback, say, "You need to be here in 6 hours. He would get in the car, go. I would go back to class, go out of class, go to the bathroom, call coach, say he's coming. He started the game the next day, threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for 100 yards, broke the league record. Like,
I
so
mean, so you're in high school, let's say you're in science class, we'll just use that example. You get hit up on a text of like, yeah, yo, bring this guy to me. You're like, I gotta go to the bathroom. You're in the bathroom texting. I mean, dude, you are literally. My next question was gonna be is like, when are you working on this? Like, how many hours after school? And here you are being like, yeah, in the middle of the day. I mean, is school aware that you're a big time agent here and that you may have to take phone calls during the day?
no, I mean, I'll be on my school iPad going on EuropeanPlayers.com, looking at teams in Turkey for my client. Like, I'm really like, I invest myself fully into this. When I work for my clients, I tell them, like, I will be the best agent you ever have, and I will be your first and last agent. So for me to achieve that, I need to put in extra work on their
Yeah.
behalf.
So how much extra work do you think you're putting in? So you obviously full-time school. Outside of that, like like how much do you think you're working?
Oh man, I mean, there's some days I go to bed at like 11:30, 12. Like it's a grind for sure. I think I put in probably for agency work probably 6 to 8 hours a day sometimes. But
And how many clients do you have right now?
clients right now, I have four. One got shut down because they had a family issue, so four right now. But I'm getting three more in the next 2 weeks. So
That's incredible. And so talk to me a little bit too, because you also mentioned that you have a podcast, you have 400 episodes. I thought you said right at the beginning when we were chatting. And obviously you put a lot of content out there as well too. So just talk a little bit about who you are. Obviously you're an agent. I am just trying to show you off here because I was impressed on the radio show. I meant that. And I'm just kind of asking you questions here because I know people are listening to this. When they're listening to this, they're just going to be like, holy cow, there's no way this kid just graduated high school.
yeah, so for podcasting, I got into that also like a year and a half ago,
Okay.
and I found a network online called Shady Sports Network. And I reached out to him. I was a fan of Shady Sports. I used to watch it. And so I reached out and I said, can I have any advice on restarting my podcast? I used to have a podcast back in the day. It wasn't that great. It was just like something I did for fun. And he was like, okay, here's my advice. Why don't you join us? Why don't you join the network? I said, okay. So I did one episode and I had a great time. I interviewed a receiver. He's 6'5" out of Mississippi. Um, he was technically a client of mine, but I kind of helped him for free because he was my first. I got him signed to a team. Now he's getting worked out by the Minnesota Vikings in a couple weeks. But he was a great guy. He's a friend. So I interviewed him, and then I interviewed a DB out of San Diego State, and I interviewed these first two guys. After that, I just became obsessed with it. I would do it every day. And then this is where it gets interesting. One of my former Pirates teammates, he's a defensive back. Unfortunately, I can't say his name. He's going through some legal issues, but great friend of mine, really close with him. Me and him started co-hosting episodes. I invited him. I said, I want you to be my co-host. So me and him would sit down and we would do 3 episodes sometimes a day. And he was a former DB1 DB at Texas A&M. And so we would do episodes together and it would be so fun. There were days where I would have 7:38 guests on 3 different time zones, 7 days a week. And it would be a constant grind. There was one day, a couple of days I did 8 podcasts in a day. Like I was grinding them out. I was having so much fun in the winter. And then I got hit up by a team in the Pirates' old league called the Carolina Cobras. And they're one of the established leagues. And they said, we want you to host our official team show on Shady Sports. So I started doing that. I became the host of their show. My last episode got 4,000 views. So I started to see my numbers kind of grow. Then I wrote an article about Darius Geis, former NFL running back, signing with the IFL team. That got 147,000 views and retweeted by ESPN hosts. And so then I started to gain confidence. Like I need to make this a full-time job. Like for me, it's a full-time job, whether I'm getting paid or not. Like I don't care about money. I care about my greatest payment is opportunity. That's how I work. So I had that opportunity to do it. I host the Carolina show. Now I'm hosting a show for the Kansas City team, the Carolina team, and I'm doing work with the agency and everything. So I use all this as a networking thing and a media thing, kind of meeting different people. And so now I have a portfolio where I've interviewed guests from every state in the country, all 50 states, Alaska, Hawaii, Wyoming, everything included. Overseas, I have a couple former guests of mine who are overseas playing in German league, Mexican league, one playing in Serbia, rugby. So just so many different types of people.
I mean, you're seeing it 400 episodes and you've been doing it for a year and a half. So, I mean, a year's 365 days, a half of that divided by two. I'm just trying to do the math in my head real quick. You're looking at like 180, something like that, whatever, whatever half of it is. But so, dude, you're saying some days you banged out like 4 or 5 podcasts in a day, like no problem. And then what would you do? Like release them like every like 3 days or something like that?
Yeah, sometimes I would like to keep it low. So I would do like 2 live and I would make the other three. Or sometimes I would release four and then keep the one and release it the week after. There's interviews. I mean, on my phone right now, I probably have 40 to 50 unreleased interviews that I've done in November that I still haven't released. So
So you truly are grinding, dude. What's your end game, man? Like, what is it that you see yourself, or do you just not have an answer to that question yet? You're kind of just figuring that all out.
For me, like I want to go in the business side, the management, like doing agency for NFL players like Drew Rosenhaus and other respected agents. But main goal is being on ESPN, behind the scenes, media, social media, kind of just taking that whole media thing to a whole nother level. That's my goal for
And
sure.
I love at the beginning, you kind of were saying you like, I'm just love the area, putting different stuff together, like having fun. What's like something that stands out to you, whether it's an episode or a guest that you had on, or just a time that like when you were done, we're like, man, this is interesting. This is going to be an interesting episode, or this might blow up.
Yeah, so I went to an event and Rob Ninkovich, former Patriot player, was
Yep.
there. I invited Rob on my podcast, and 3 weeks later, Rob came over to my house for dinner and came on my podcast. And so, being able to talk to Rob for 2 hours about his experiences in the NFL and him being on ESPN and everything, it was just the amount of knowledge I absorbed from that was instrumental to me.
You are so impressive. Like you
Appreciate that.
really are impressive. Like I'm sitting here just like in awe. Like I catch myself on my Zoom screen just staring at you, and I'm like, oh my God, I look like a because I am just like I can't believe how smart you are, and I can't believe in how quick a time you've picked up on so much and you're so involved and to hear the connections that you have and what you've been up to and really the kind of hear your end game is so impressive. um like like outside of this, right? Like are you committing this full time now? Is this like what you kind of want to do, or do you have plans in the fall? Like what are you looking to do?
Yeah, so going to college in the fall, I'm going to
Okay.
Clark University. It's kind of weird because I want to keep doing this in the fall, obviously, but obviously with school and everything, I'm still gonna do this probably like 4 to 5 days a week. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be in a little moderation compared to what it is now. I probably will transition more on the writing side, even though I'm not a big fan of writing articles. I realize like I need to get a little better at that. I want to become a better writer, so I probably will transition more into articles.
I mean, you must have been the man in high school. You certainly the man when you start telling people that you're an agent. I mean, you're an agent at a super young age. I mean, the people in high school, they kind of aware of that. What was the buzz around school to hear that you were this like super genius agent?
I keep it on the wraps. I keep everything I do on the wraps. I don't. I go to school. I'm a regular student. I grind. I get my work done. I go home and I get on my grind. So it's kind of. I don't want anyone to know what I'm up to. All my work is done in the dark until it becomes light.
Dude, like I just said, are you guys listening to this? Is wild. Um, I feel like yeah, I'm just so impressed. There's like so many questions I want to ask you. We could go on for like 3 hours here. Um, who working kind of, writing articles, obviously podcasting, having all these people on. Um, for you, has it hit you? Like as you're saying all this stuff to me, like has it hit you what you've built in such a short period of time?
Sometimes I sit back and I'm very thankful for everyone I met, but it's so constant. It's every day. Like I kind of don't get a moment to sit down and reflect, but I like to look at it and say, okay, I'm here now. Where I'm going to be in 2 months, 3 months, and I scale it that way. And so it just keeps me going where it's like, okay, I got this, it's cool, but what's next, you know?
All right, you're a high school, obviously just recent graduate of high school. So let's ask you some high school questions so we can put him back to not being like he's a 35-year-old super agent. Okay. What was your favorite subject in school?
I like math. I'm a huge math guy. I'm huge in the numbers. I
I
like
could
to
see
look at
that.
stats and everything. So math for sure.
What's your least favorite subject?
Least favorite would be English. Writing, it's just I hate writing.
How crazy is that? Because here you are saying in college, like, I'm going to get on the writing grind more and probably do a little bit more of that. And obviously the mathematics stuff makes perfect sense to me because of all the data analysis, I'm sure, and stuff working with the team and numbers and everything else. But it's so funny to hear you say that, like, English language arts, like writing is the worst. This is like my least favorite. um and you mentioned numbers earlier too. Were you involved in stuff? I mean, obviously a wealth of knowledge of understanding numbers and looking at trends. Were you involved in these sports in high school and helping out in that sense?
Not really, honestly. I kind of stayed away. Me and my athletic department at school didn't really see eye to eye on a couple things. So,
Yeah.
I kind of didn't get that opportunity. But, with me and my sports I do, right, like the Special Olympics and everything, competing, right, I think I've done like 5 sports in a year. So, staying busy with that and competing and trying to be the best athlete I can be too. It's really important to me.
What do you compete in? What are some of the events that you do?
So I did flag football. I was starting quarterback for my flag football team.
Let's go.
I did basketball. I did track. I did baseball. I did bocce. I did bowling for a little bit. So
What's your
just
numbers bowling? What's your bowling number? Curious.
I'm not really good at bowling.
Okay,
I was
okay.
like I,
We don't
I
have to give
used
me
to
a
be really
score.
good, but then I got higher level and I'm like, man, I can't keep up with these kids anymore.
I'll tell you, when I was locked in, my buddies and I used to have a bowling every Thursday night. We had a bowling pin that was our title. And every time, it'd be like five of us who would go, and then whoever win, they sign the pin that day, the name, date, and then they bring it home for the week. And we're taking pictures at work with it, like we're sending each other to the following Thursday. But when I was at my peak, man, I've never cracked 200, but I flirt with the 190, high 180s, low 90s pretty consistently. Now I'm not good. Maybe like 130, 140. I don't have it.
Yeah, I'm around the same
Yeah.
150. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm not super, but I've never broken 200. It's something I've never done. It's an accomplishment I hope before I pass. That is a big goal of mine, is to break 200 in bowling. But interesting. And it was so interesting, just like how busy you are. Like, you're nonstop grinding. If it's not, training and competing in sports yourself, it's you at night, like you said, when the sun's down. Like, that's how I work. Like, that's when my family's sleeping. Like, that's kind of like when I'm doing all my work and editing and everything else and get my events all locked in, because I have a full-time job too. I'm a school teacher, so it's not like this is kind of my only thing. So when I hear your hustle and I hear your grind, man, I get it. Like, I'm living proof of it myself, but you're just like on the next level for sure. Let's jump back to Mass Pirates a little bit. Obviously, diehard fan. We talked about them a little bit at the beginning. How do you see this team? How do you see things playing out for them as far as, the next X amount of games that are coming up before playoffs? I mean, I think we're both on the same page as far as we feel like they're a pretty strong team that just maybe in certain situations they just got to win a little bit more than lose in those situations.
Yeah, we're 6-4. We have 6 games remaining. I would like to go 4-2. 5-1. That's my ultimate goal for this team. Let's get in the playoffs and let's do what we have to do. I don't want to go on the road for the playoffs. Like, I really don't want to go on the road. I saw what happened last year. Because we're the only East Coast team, we have a lot of trouble going on the road in the playoffs. It's the mental preparation it takes. It's the travel. Going to Sioux Falls last year, you have to fly into Omaha and you have to take a 4-hour bus to Sioux Falls, right? So mentally, that's mentally exhausting, and doing that 2 weeks in a row, that's what happened last year. I don't want to go through that again. Right now, it looks like we might go to Green Bay if we are the third or fourth seed, which I hope we're not. Worst comes to worst, we do go to Green Bay, it's a better trip. It's a direct flight. It's only 3 hours, so the team can handle that. So I'm not as nervous, but I prefer to be in the Sonder Center for playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. The more home games you can get, the better. And yeah, like you said, traveling on a plane to the middle of nowhere and then driving further into the middle of nowhere for hours. Yeah, it's mentally draining and mentally exhausting. Um, who do you look at the team right now in the league that is just clicking on all cylinders? I mean, I noticed a couple undefeated teams, but who's a team that maybe stands out to you that would be a team that you'd want to avoid as long as you possibly can, truthfully?
Um, Honestly, it's gonna surprise some people. The Bay Area Panthers. They're 8-1 right now. Their defense is unstoppable. They got a great running back, Shane Simpson. Their quarterback's insane. Like Bay Area or San Antonio, who we have to play twice. San Antonio's offense is number one in the league. They average 56 points a game. I know their offensive coordinator very well. He's a good friend of mine. So it's just it. I don't want to play San Antonio, but we have to play them twice, and so we just have to stop their offense 2 times, and that's it, really.
And in the arena game, you say it's fair to say, I mean, if your offense is good, you are in every game. I mean, you are,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, okay. Um, Yeah, you know, I look at our defense and I want to jump onto the defensive side of the set for a second. I know you're an offensive guy, but I look at our defense and like you said, that front line is, I mean, it's good, and I feel like the speed on the field. I mean, Matt Elam's a safety who in some senses is a linebacker. He's up in the box very quickly at times and makes plays and can be explosive. Um, Defensively, I know you kind of compare them. We compare it to the 21 team a little bit, but do you feel like this team's getting at the quarterback a lot more, or just a lot more TFLs you've noticed maybe this year over the past years? I mean, again, I'm going off of 1 year, but I'm just curious if this is a consistency that you see at all.
We have more speed on defense than we did last year, for sure. Kevin Bundage, right? We talk about him a lot. He's
Yeah,
he's a force and he's an anchor of that defense right now. We just need more speed with the DBs, right? We just need more speed with that, and then we'll be fine.
yeah.
That's the only thing defensively, like we need to do better. Other than that, I feel like we have all the pieces we need DBs.
Now, in 8-on-8 with defense, right? Out of curiosity, in your opinion, like obviously quarterback on the other side of the ball is one thing, but for you, what would you say defensively is a position that, like, if you're good at defensively or you're strong at defensively, your defense is okay to begin with?
Then Mac linebacker because you're
Yeah.
rushing every snap.
Yeah. It's interesting following Calvin with the camera a little bit when we did our video on him. That's like after the game we were talking. I was like, man, you're either dropping back in coverage or you are 90 miles an hour, like at the snap of the ball. Like it is just one or the other. So that makes sense. Obviously, if that person's really good, like we have on defense, it can be a game changer. And especially in our arena where a field goal back 10 yards is the difference between you hitting it and you hitting the jumbotron. So it is interesting for you. Now you obviously been writing for a while and you've been podcasting, you've been having guests on from the arenas all over in all different leagues and so on and so forth. um when you go to school, like, is there any interest in kind of jumping on that side a little bit? I mean, obviously I know you're going to the business side as far as the agency goes, but you're making content and stuff like that. You looking to kind of do any creative classes like that or minor or anything like that at all?
Yeah, minor in sports journalism. Right now, it's political science is what I want to minor in, but double minor is something I really considered. I really like this content thing I got going,
Yeah.
so it's finding a healthy balance with that and how to incorporate it in my degree.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I'm just so impressed by you. And I've been saying this kind of all throughout the podcast, but like what gets me is just like I feel like I'm talking to somebody who is just so much smarter than me, like truthfully, just kind of hearing what you're saying. I mean, when you were talking about other teams like offenses and certain players and knowing statistics, how much of that is you being a fan? Versus how much is that you as an agent, like kind of knowing these teams a little bit, knowing these players? I mean, are you studying it from both ends in some way?
Yeah, so it's really cool for me because every team the Pirates played this year so far, I've known at least two guys because I've interviewed them. So like this week, the running back, I know him, I've interviewed him. So
Yeah.
it's cool because you develop these connections with these away teams. And it's important to also know the organization, like you said, for being an agent. If you want to send clients there, like what reputation they have, how their housing set up, how do they feed players. That's important to me too. So that's how I know a lot of these teams and different players and stuff.
I mean, that's incredible to hear. And they're probably, I mean, you are such a likable person. I could see all these people. Ninkovich coming to your house. What you guys eat?
Oh, we ate Indian food. We ordered some barbecue chicken, and then we had a great time. It was I love Rob. He's a forever friend, and he's a great mentor for
So
sure.
you guys just met. he loved you and he was like, yeah, let's have the podcast. And then you like come over to my house and he was like, it was that simple, that easy.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, I can come over to your house and record it." I said, "Okay, I have a studio. I don't really have a studio, so I threw something together real quick. I had my mom like cut the shades and everything, and we made it a studio. It was fun. He was such a great guest to have on.
I mean, that's incredible. And what's so incredible about you as a person, and I mean this, the fact that when I asked you about school and you're like, yeah, I kind of keep that stuff to myself a little bit, like my business, like not many kids your age would even do. Every kid your age would be like, you want to hear who I just interviewed, bro? Like, they all would be doing that. And for you just to kind of be all, I mean, you are successful. You are already successful, but man, I am telling you, like, yeah, you're different, man. You are different. And I'm so interested to continue to follow you and going to school and keeping up with you as far as, who you're signing or who wants to work with you. I mean, is football the avenue that you want to stay in, or do you see yourself exploring beyond that?
I've explored basketball a little bit, kind of looking that avenue, but right now it's football, it's arena football. I love this indoor stuff. I'm working on a possible expansion team myself in 2025. So I'm really focused on the indoor side right now.
Wow. Is there anything you can give us on that or no?
Yeah, so I have an ownership group. We've been talking for about 7 months. I'll be the GM of the team. Right now, we're looking at leagues, trying to finalize an arena lease. It's not in the state. I don't want anything to take away from my Pirates. So it'll be down in Texas in a certain area right near Mexico. So we're trying to get that locked up. Hopefully, we can make an announcement here in the next 4 weeks.
Where's Clark?
Clark is in Worcester.
Okay. How the hell are you gonna pull that off, dude? If you start a team in 2025, how are you GM and going to school full time?
Yeah, we've spoken about that, different ideas and in different ways we can make that happen. But virtually, I can do a lot with the contracts and media and everything. And just I know the contract for the league really well, so I'll be able to. I mean, I can put together a 25-man roster in 24 hours. Like I have those player connections. I've already identified head coaching candidates and stuff. So we're really trying to make this work. The arena lease is the only thing holding us up right now, so we're working on getting that. But
Okay, I'm picking your brain here a little bit more. So when did you decide that you were like, hey, I want to be a part of an ownership group and GM my own team?
so I kind of being part of the network and just seeing all the owners and some of them do it right and some don't. And I see how good Javon and Hassan do it. I'm like, man, I could really build something in the community, in the right community, in the right market. And so I started talking with a, prospective owner, and we were talking about markets, where we wanted to put a team. And I realized this guy had no logical sense of how to start a team and how to run a business and what markets to do. And so I stumbled across this team in the area in Texas, and the guy happened to be part of my network, like Shady Sports Network. And so we started talking. I got on the phone with him and his brother, and they own a semi-pro team, and that team been around for 11 years. And it's a really good area that is in Texas. It's very popular. They're starting a college football team here in 2025 D1. So it lines up with what we're trying to do. And I see their vision. They're local. We have local ownership. It's like we can make this happen. We just need to push it forward. And so we've been trying to do that.
Wow. Dang, man, I am so impressed. I am so impressed. And even identifying head coaching candidates, like for you to already kind of be thinking of that and for you to be kind of looking out there and scouting. I mean, obviously you mentioned you've worked with different quarterbacks, you worked in a coaching system and just with the Mass Pirates and met a lot of different people and understand how offenses are ran and seeing, what we've both kind of said as far as Jawad being one of the best, if not the best around. Yeah, man, it just seems like you're a sponge and you just absorb everything you can. Yeah, I don't even know the final question I was going to ask you, but man, I just feel like the more we talk, the more you reveal. I'm like, holy cow, holy cow. What's your advice to young kids like yourself, man? Because like I've learned at an older age that I wanted to chase this, and I've always coached, and I've always been like, man, I have such an idea about high school and college sports. I want to put a podcast together. I want to do this all access stuff, and obviously coaching, I could just never do it. And then I realized, man, COVID, this is the chance to hit it. Like a billion other people that started podcasts or started businesses and did whatever. But then the hardest, the ones that want it bad and the ones that are willing to grind are the ones that stick it out and they're still doing it like you and I, in a lot of senses. But what's your advice to young kids out there who want to chase a dream, who see it and don't just look at it as something that's really far away, but it's something that they could reach out, grab, and make it a reality?
Be your own measuring stick, right? Be the one who you scale yourself, you set your goals, you figure out what's success and what's not. Don't let other people, there's a lot of people that will try to tell you stuff and give you advice who have never done it themselves. Be your own measuring stick, then you can understand, okay, I'm here today and I can be here tomorrow. And so understand, like, measure your own success, find the right people, surround yourself by people who want to be successful. And the reason why, like, I don't tell people about what I do is because I haven't made it yet in my mind. Like, I have so much more to prove, and I don't want anyone getting in my way. You're either in my way to help me or you get out of my way. That's my mindset. So it's just always inching forward, always look to improve, and just have fun. Honestly, like, just lay it back, have fun, and as long as you're having fun, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, and sometimes it can take space up here, right? Because I think that when people are doing great stuff or people want to achieve great stuff, there's not many people who are trying to achieve great stuff. So sometimes keeping things to yourself because people take headspace up here from you and their doubts or their questions or their concerns now start sinking into your head. And all of a sudden you start listening to other people, and that kind of takes you away from what it is that you're doing. So it's great that you kind of silence the haters a little bit or just potential haters and kind of stay driven and knowing what you want to do. I mean this, Krish. You today have blown my mind. Like you really have. I would love to make this every so often appearance and have you on to update what's going on with you in life because I feel like no matter how many times I have you on here, there's going to be something new, amazing that you're ready to tell me, or something new, amazing that's popping up in your life. Like you are truly inspiring, and I cannot wait just to kind of see how big you become because it's not a matter of you becoming big. It's a matter of how big you're going to become in this industry. And I cannot wait to see where that is. I really mean that, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. Really appreciate the platform. I can't wait to meet you at the next Pirates game, and I'm excited to see how far your platform will come as well. And I think this industry needs people like you to push it forward. And I think we're all headed in the right direction. And let's just keep having fun with it.
And I appreciate that. And the other aspect I'll add to that for you is the genuineness. Like you are a pretty genuine person. And in this business or in this industry in 3.5 years, there's plenty of people I work with that have been genuine and plenty of people that I've stopped working with or never worked with because I'm just like, yeah, it's not a genuine person. Like, and to me, that means the world because for anybody who's working hard and hustling, I'm more than willing to bend over backwards and help them out any way that I can, as long as they're a genuine person. So I mean that, man. Anything I can do for you going forward, anything I can share. Like I said, I'd love to have you pop on here consistently and really kind of hear, especially now that you're going to be in an ownership group possibly down the road and being a GM and maybe we'll hear something about that in the middle of summer. So I'm really excited about that. And again, I thank you for your time out of your schedule to pop on here with me.
Thank you. I wish you the best of luck, and I can't wait to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So this Saturday we'll connect. Chris and I will connect, and we'll see each other at the Mass Pirates game. But again, from Beyond Podcast, I'm your host Anthony Petrols, guys. Till next time.